A clash of empires, the seeds of conflict. In the heart of medieval Europe, a storm was brewing, one that would shape the destiny of nations for generations to come. In the 12th century, two formidable powers dominated southeastern Europe: the ancient, sophisticated Byzantine Empire and the ambitious, rapidly rising Kingdom of Hungary. Their ambitions and rivalries would soon ignite a struggle for supremacy. Byzantium, ruled from the legendary city of Constantinople, saw itself as the rightful master of the Balkans, a region it had controlled for centuries and was determined to reclaim. Meanwhile, Hungary, a proud Catholic kingdom on the rise, sought to expand its influence southward, setting its sights on the rich and strategic lands of Croatia, Dalmatia, and Bosnia. These territories were not only abundant in resources and wealth, but also held immense strategic value, making them fiercely contested by both empires. For Hungary, gaining control meant prestige, security, and a place among Europe's great powers. For Byzantium, it was about restoring lost glory and reasserting dominance over lands they believed were rightfully theirs. At the center of this brewing conflict stood Emperor Manuel von Komnenos, a brilliant and ambitious soldier emperor. He viewed Hungary not just as a rival, but as a direct threat to his vision of imperial restoration. Determined and relentless, Manuel was prepared to use both diplomacy and force to push Hungary back and secure the Balkans for Byzantium, no matter the cost. The rivalry was further inflamed by a tangled web of politics and family ties, royal marriages meant to forge alliances, exiled princes seeking refuge, and constant interference in each other's internal affairs. Manuel often welcomed Hungarian exiles and disaffected nobles, using them as pawns in his grand strategy to destabilize Hungary from within and keep his rivals off balance. These actions only deepened the mistrust and resentment between the two courts, fueling a cycle of suspicion and retaliation that seemed impossible to break. The borderlands became a dangerous flashpoint, with both sides sending armed patrols and fortifying their positions, neither willing to back down or show weakness. As armies gathered and generals plotted their next moves, the stage was set for a decisive confrontation that would determine the fate of the Balkans. The ambitions and pride of kings and emperors would soon erupt into open war, drawing thousands into the coming storm. The seeds of conflict had been sown, and as the Balkans braced for battle, the world watched, knowing that history was about to be written in blood and steel. Hungary's ambition, a kingdom on the rise. In the 1160s, Hungary under King Stephen III was bold and assertive. Stephen, young and energetic, aimed to make Hungary the dominant power in the region. Sirmium, a fertile and strategic land, became his main target. Hungary's alliances with the West and local Balkan powers, like the Serbs, strengthened its position. Internally, Stephen faced rivals, uncles supported by Byzantium, fueling his hostility toward Emperor Manuel. For Stephen, the conflict was personal, defending his crown and Hungary's independence. The Hungarian nobility, proud warriors, pushed for war, confident in their heavy cavalry. War promised them glory and spoils. This mix of royal ambition, powerful alliances, and a warlike nobility made conflict with Byzantium inevitable. Hungary was ready to challenge the empire. The collision course was set. The armies assemble, knights versus professionals. In the heart of medieval Europe, two very different military traditions prepared to collide, each representing a unique philosophy of warfare. The Hungarian army was built around its elite heavy cavalry, noble warriors clad in mail, mounted on powerful war horses, and trained from youth for the chaos of battle. These knights were the pride of Hungary, charging into combat like medieval tanks, their armor gleaming in the sun. Their main tactic was a thunderous, decisive charge, designed to shatter enemy lines with sheer force and momentum, hoping to end battles quickly through shock and awe. Supporting these knights were lighter cavalry and infantry, who played important roles but were always secondary to the main force of armored nobles. Yet, this reliance on the charge was also their weakness. If the initial assault failed or was blunted, the knights often found themselves with few options, struggling to adapt to changing circumstances on the battlefield. In contrast, the Byzantine army, led by the experienced Andronikos Kontostephanos, was a professional, combined arms force, shaped by centuries of military tradition and innovation. Cataphracts, Archers, infantry, and horse archers all worked together in carefully coordinated maneuvers, each unit supporting the others to create a flexible and balanced army. Byzantine soldiers were highly disciplined, well-trained, and skilled in executing complex battlefield tactics, drilled relentlessly to respond to any threat. Their military manuals taught them the arts of deception, ambush, and the feigned retreat, strategies that could turn the tide of battle through cunning rather than brute strength. The true strength of the Byzantines lay in their flexibility and strategic thinking, allowing them to adapt quickly and outmaneuver less versatile foes. The Hungarians relied on raw power and the shock of their cavalry, the Byzantines on discipline, coordination, and tactical cunning. At Sirmium, these two philosophies of war, one rooted in strength, the other in strategy, faced off in a dramatic confrontation. The outcome would hinge on which approach could outlast and outthink the other, as both armies waited anxiously for the signal to begin. The armies gathered, each confident in its own way. Hungarians trusting in their might, Byzantines in their discipline and planning. The stage was set for a clash of styles, a battle that would test not just strength, but the very ideas that shaped medieval warfare. On the eve of battle, the generals and their plans. As darkness settled over the camp, the air was thick with anticipation and the quiet murmurs of soldiers preparing for what lay ahead. Andronikos Kontostephanos, a seasoned and respected Byzantine commander, understood both the formidable strength of the Hungarian knights and the patterns in their tactics. He had faced such threats before and knew that brute force alone would not win the day. Drawing on his experience, he devised a cunning plan of deception. His goal was to lure the Hungarians in, disrupt their powerful cavalry formation, and then strike with precision at their weakest point. This strategy demanded unwavering discipline and perfect timing from his troops. Rather than meeting the enemy head-on, he would rely on patience and coordination, waiting for the exact moment to act. On the other side, the Hungarian commander, Dénes, son of Baksh, placed his faith in the might of his cavalry. He believed that a single, overwhelming charge could shatter any opposition. Dénes arranged his heavily armored knights at the very front, their banners fluttering in the wind, ready to smash through the Byzantine lines with sheer force and momentum. His plan was bold, direct, and had brought him victory in previous battles. The confidence among his men was high, fueled by memories of past triumphs. As dawn approached, and the armies faced each other near the banks of the Sava River, tension gripped both camps. Every soldier knew that the coming clash would be decisive. The fate of the Balkans, and perhaps the future of both empires, rested on the shoulders of these two commanders and the plans they had crafted. The Byzantines stood ready, eyes fixed on their leaders, waiting for the signal to move. Meanwhile, the Hungarians, restless and eager, tightened their grips on their weapons and prepared to charge at a moment's notice. Both sides were filled with determination and hope, each believing that victory was within their grasp and that their cause was just. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, anxious soldiers awaited the signal that would send them into battle. The outcome of this day would shape the destiny of the region for years to come. The moment had arrived. The battle was about to begin, and history was waiting to be written. The battle began not with swords, but with arrows. Kontostephanos sent his horse archers forward, Turks and Cumans, masters of hit-and-run tactics. They harassed the Hungarian knights, firing volleys and retreating before they could be caught. The knights, built for close combat, grew frustrated and restless. Dénes saw his men's morale slipping. His plan for a decisive charge was unraveling. Unable to wait, he ordered the advance. The Hungarian heavy cavalry surged forward, lances leveled, a terrifying sight. The Byzantines pulled back their skirmishers and braced their main line. Heavy infantry and archers formed a wall of shields and spears, the air filled with war horns and thunderous hooves. The Hungarians had taken the bait. Now, the real test began. Could the Byzantine line hold? Kontostephanos' plan was in motion. As the Hungarian knights closed in, Kontostephanos unleashed the feigned retreat. The Byzantine center fell back, appearing to break under pressure. The Hungarians, convinced of victory, charged harder, losing their formation. This was the trap. The retreat lured them deeper, scattering their ranks. The disciplined Byzantines executed the maneuver perfectly. The Hungarian charge, once unified, became a disorganized rush. Kontostephanos had kept his elite troops hidden on the wings. As the Hungarians surged forward, he gave the signal. The Byzantine wings wheeled inward, preparing to encircle the enemy. The hunters had become the hunted. The Hungarians were caught off guard, momentum carrying them into a deadly trap. The feigned retreat had worked. The decisive moment had arrived. The Hungarians realized their mistake too late. As they chased the retreating Byzantines, fresh troops struck from both flanks. Chaos erupted. The Hungarian knights were trapped and surrounded. Kontostephanos' center halted, reforming a wall of spears. The Hungarians, hemmed in on three sides, lost their advantage. The battle became a desperate melee. Knights packed too tightly to fight effectively. The Byzantines, with shorter weapons and discipline, pressed the attack. Kontostephanos himself led from the front, inspiring his men. The Hungarian line broke. Panic and flight followed. Byzantine cavalry pursued, cutting down fleeing knights. Many Hungarians were killed or captured, including their commander. The victory was total, a masterclass in tactics and discipline. The Battle of Sirmium was over. News of the victory at Sirmium brought jubilation to Constantinople. Kontostephanos was celebrated as a hero. Emperor Manuel staged a grand triumph. The defeat was catastrophic for Hungary, their army shattered, their pride wounded. King Stephen III was forced to accept harsh peace terms, surrendering Sirmium and other territories. The region fell firmly under Byzantine control. Manuel's dominance in the Balkans was now undisputed. Hungary's king had to accept a Byzantine-brokered peace and recognize Manuel's influence. The victory marked the high point of the Komnenian Restoration. For a brief moment, Byzantium seemed unassailable. The Danube frontier was secure, and Hungary humbled. The map of southeastern Europe had been redrawn. The Battle of Sirmium is a classic lesson in strategy over brute force. The Hungarians brought power, but the Byzantines brought flexibility and cunning. Kontostephanos' tactics, skirmishers, feigned retreat, flank attack, are still studied today. Yet, Sirmium was Byzantium's last great triumph. Manuel's death soon after led to decline and chaos. The empire's glory faded, and within decades, Constantinople would fall to the Fourth Crusade. For Hungary, defeat was a harsh lesson, but it spurred reform and future strength. Bela III, raised in Constantinople, became a great king, modernizing Hungary. Sirmium stands as a pivotal moment. Professionalism and strategy triumphed, but empires rise and fall. The battle's legacy is one of adaptation and the enduring power of a brilliant plan. In the end, Sirmium reminds us, in war, the mind is the sharpest weapon.